You have come here because you're not completely satisfied with your love life. Whether you're in a relationship right now and lacking connection, or if you're unsure if there is even love out there for you in the future. I will tell you that your next move is of cosmic significance, and you're also getting help and guidance. I'm Emma. I'm a medical doctor, but in this video, I'm speaking solely from personal experience and conviction. The last century has brought humankind from horse, wagon, and manual labor to something that was just a couple of decades ago science fiction and imagination. But when it comes to our personal relationships, there is a crisis going on, and you can notice it when you check YouTube and the topics that are discussed and the things that people are having issues and problems with. So our material, the wealth, or how we are able to use the Earth's resources, we're getting more effective, but people are unhappy with the way that...
Ja, det går bra.
Okay. So my house is just full of kids right now. And my daughter just wanted to invite over another friend. But it's full of life as well, so I don't know if you can hear them in the background. Okay, so there is reason for concern when looking out into the world. And we feel helpless as little people. What can we do when big politicians or chief executives are making poor and selfish decisions? I'll tell you what we can do. Corruption or undemocratic systems is not something that just comes from the top. It is something that seeps through the entire society. So from the top to the bottom. I just finished reading this book. It's from a woman called, it's hard to pronounce, Hien Seo Lee. And it's actually her 7th name. So she fled from North Korea as a 17-year-old. And this is a story about her life in North Korea and her family's life and how she was able to flee. In the book, she makes the comment that the Kim dynasty is still able to have total or very harsh control over the population. They are not acting. It is not just a tyranny from the top down. This is something that seeps through the entire society, down to the local governments and even neighbors ranting out neighbors because they're afraid to get the spotlight on themselves. And this woman is not the only one who has made similar observations. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, he's an author from Russia. He was sentenced to spend, I don't know how many years, in the Gulag prison camps back in the Soviet era. He had been critical to the regime. And while in the prison camps, he started to write this large book or series of books in his mind. He didn't have paper and pen. And the book is called The Gulag Archipelago. And it describes how the Soviet Union worked, and he describes in much detail how the corruption is seeping down and how...
Ja. Hej. Var kan jag slänga papper? I köket finns det en papperskorg. Okej.
And he describes how people are cooperating with the system. And some of them are even loyal to the government. Many are. And some are cooperating or renting out people because of the benefits, the economical benefits, and neighbors who rented on their neighbors would even sometimes get their property as a reward. Several years ago, when I traveled by train with my then boyfriend in the east of Europe, I come to speak with a guy on a train, and it was right after we had been ripped off while exchanging money at one of those little exchange booths. And this young man, he was very insightful, and he said that, yes, I'm sorry that you experienced that. Unfortunately, many people in my country are corrupt, and this is because our politicians are corrupt. And people like lower down in the food chain, they're feeling that, well, if I am honest, then I will not get nothing of the cake. So I better see to myself and mine, because that's what everyone else is doing. So it runs both ways. When you have a leader who is corrupt, narcissistic, selfish, then the people under him start losing their moral compasses, and they stop thinking about what is right, and they start to think about what can I get away with. And it runs in the opposite way as well. So when people are disheartened and when they are losing their connection with higher human values like truth, love, compassion, and they are drifting towards more darker thinking, then they will vote for a leader that reflects their way of life. So there are many, many examples in history of this. Historians say that Adolf Hitler, he was not voted as a lead figure for the party or eventually elected the Reich Chancellor for the German people. On his own, he was voted because of that time and because of the economical hardships and because the society went through a lot of moral breakdown, and that's why they voted for him as a charismatic leader who would solve their problems and make their country great again. And there are many warnings right now about fascism is on the rise, Narcissism is on the rise, and there is a connection there. If you have a look at YouTube or like the celebrities that we are admiring, then there is a lot of glorification of narcissism. In the book 48 Laws of Power, for example, you can almost call this book the Narcissist's Playbook by Robert Greene. Law number 15 says that you should totally annihilate your enemy. But what if the enemy is your kid or your wife or your previous friend? There are a lot of channels where self-proclaimed narcissists are talking in a way that glorifies their way of thinking. H.D. Tudor, for example, he says that he is both a narcissist and a psychopath, and he calls this combination the ultra, like it would be something morally or the smart thing to do. These people describe people who are trying to uphold morals or do the right thing or be compassionate or help others. They are weaklings, they are naive, and they are fair game. You can just go after them. They have it coming. So how do we deal with such a situation? There is a beautiful story about a man in India. His name is Mahatma Gandhi, or his, I think his last name Gandhi, and then they added the Mahatma because it means great soul. He was the one who freed India from the British colonial government, or they were oppressors. And he did this without lifting a sword against them. And this change, or this revolution, non-violent revolution, it came from this one man who had an idea that we need to do things differently. Gandhi called his way of acting Satyagraha, and it means to align with the truth, or non-cooperation with the lie. And what they were doing was that they were refusing to cooperate with the British government. So they would not abide by their rules. They would not help them if they demanded them to do labor for them. And the most famous demonstration was called the Salt March. The British government was putting in place a law that said that they were not allowed to collect salt for themselves, not even from the ocean sides. So they had to buy it from the British government and pay taxes. And Gandhi then made this huge salt march, and they all marched for a long distance down to the sea, and then each of them took a handful of salt, and it was just to demonstrate that they were not going to cooperate. Eventually Britain was forced to leave India because it was impossible to govern or oppress someone who wouldn't cooperate. And of course there were a lot of Indians who were injured or beaten or tried to be intimidated by the Brits, but they still resisted. Now, what does this story have to do with the situation that we find ourselves in? Being close to a narcissistic individual is, in a way, to be close to an oppressor, because they are trying to govern you or involve you in their craziness. They're trying to affect your mind. You can either comply, which is the easier road. It's hard to always take a conflict, or you can go into a high conflict situation where you will probably get injured when it comes to your relationships, or it can become dangerous. They're not concerned with moral codes. So hits under the belt are allowed because you've just turned yourself into the enemy. Or you can choose the non-cooperation pathway, which would be no contact. And going no contact can be very painful. But, the only way to go forth is to remove yourself. But still, what does this have to do with the universe and the global situation? Well, people are finding that going toxic is serving them. So there are a lot of toxic masculine movements. One of them featuring Andrew Tate, trying to teach men how to behave like jerks to get what they want. And there are similarly a lot of toxic feminine movements. These speakers are saying that women are goddesses and we should be treated like goddesses and worshipped. And I even heard one of them say that the female internal genitals look like the symbol for eternity lying down. So this is the only path for the man to enter a connection with the universe, which is a completely narcissistic way of viewing yourself. So neither of those are healthy, but people are getting drawn to that because of pain, because they have been pained and injured, and then there is the 4B movement saying that we should not, women should not marry, have sex or kids with any man until all man changes, which will not happen. A more healthy approach would be to just refuse to be with a person who is toxic. A couple of years ago, I went on a course about leadership aimed at doctors. And there they spoke about group dynamics and how in a working group or in a friend group, there is a dynamic that is forming. And the group can then function on different levels. So in the higher functioning groups, they are able to take in criticism, make evaluations, use all the group members' assets, and cooperate. And something magical happens when a group cooperates together in a healthy manner. But in the lower functioning groups, there were a lot of conflict and toxicity. And the educators said that, well, it is well known in group psychology that a group can never elevate above the psychology of its lowest member. That means that if you are a group, a family, a workplace, a friend group, and you are bringing in a toxic person, I think you have noticed this. Everyone starts to evolve around this toxic person. It kind of brings it does bring the group dynamic down. There may be conflicts. There may be slight splittings or bad feelings in the group. And because the toxic person is often loud, they're often easily offended, then everyone is sort of tiptoeing around them, trying not to set them off, and trying to keep the mood going. And I noticed this myself while I was with my ex-husband, who was highly narcissistic, that the dynamic in our family were more tense. Even though I was trying not to react, I was trying to keep a healthy relationship from my part with the kids and even with him. So I was not responding to this high conflict. Still, I wasn't able to elevate the psychology of our group. And my kids have noticed this as well. So they clearly said that our home is much more peaceful and there is no tension now that we don't live together. In this universe that we live in, there is a force behind it. I don't know what to call it. Universe, God, the life force, the good force. It was that force that created the Big Bang out of nothing. And it was that force that created life, the first cells that some say were formed in a puddle of mud, which is totally impossible just to form a completely functioning cell with all the DNA in place that is able to reproduce and nourish itself just from a coincidence. It's the same force that forms the baby with the fusion of the sperm and the egg. And I think it's the same force that is able to wake our soul up to its existence. The becoming conscious or the waking up, which can be slow or it can be instant. That force is creative. It has created millions of variations, colors, beauty. It is beautiful and it is truth. So when you are lying, you are sort of shielding yourself off from this connection. That is something I've clearly noticed. If you're trying to meditate or if you're trying to be conscious in the moment, if you have lied or been dishonest, then it is preventing you because it is constantly drawing your thoughts and you're trying to shield yourself off so you can't be fully authentic when you're interacting with the world and other people. This force is love and it's compassion. And narcissists are everything that is opposing this force, so they're not able to connect with it. They are not able to get wisdom or guidance from this force. Instead, they are hunting for humans who are connected trying to get ahead by using them as leverage. They're not able to function on their own.
Han är inte här. Vad tog han vägen?
I have noticed that when I am myself aligning with these values and making an effort to stick to the truth, to not cooperate or support lies, because that is what you're unwittingly doing. That was what I was doing for many years when I was still not divorcing my husband. I was supporting him, actually, even if I was trying not to. When I left him, I was feeling this connection long before, but it has become much stronger. And I have many instances where I was helped by a force greater than myself. And I do believe that the universe actually cares. So perhaps not that you should be happy the way that you define it right now, because often what we think would make us happy is just, as soon as you reach that goal, you are not even happy. You're just aiming for the next thing. But joyful and connected and truthful and filled with love and compassion and joy and creativity. That's what I believe that this force does want. And I believe that when you are choosing now how to move forward in your own personal love life, it does have ramifications. Just like when you throw a pebble in a pool, it does spiral out, and it affects people. So your next union will affect many people around you, kids, friends, parents, and just anyone who comes in contact with you. Make sure that the person that you choose to be in a relationship with is not a toxic person, and it is a person who can be open-minded and support you, who can see you, and who can share and grow these qualities together with. Because love and a close relationship could be a very beautiful thing, and it can be something that brings you forward in your growth. Start again. So what you're doing next matters. It matters to us all and to this whole world, and it matters to me. And I hope that this gave you something to think about. I'm Emma, holding up a light over the bridge. Remember, there is always a way out. There is always a way forward. Please be safe, take care, and have a great day.